Item number 8, the UPAC's Energy Vision recommendations, and I think that's Rex and David. I'm not sure what the plan is. I'm hoping we don't probably need to go through this whole presentation again as we did last month.
We'll make it very short and
Okay.
concise.
Is everybody in agreement with that, or does anybody request a very long? Okay. Hello to both of you, especially on top of the workshop we just had. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair Gabler and members of the board. I'm Dave Grossman, Strategic Planning and Governance Manager. With me this afternoon is Rex Adams, Chairman of the Utilities Policy Advisory Committee, also known as UPAC. At the February 2019 Utilities Board meeting, the board approved the Energy Vision assignment scope and directed UPAC to begin work on the assignment. UPAC was tasked with developing a new energy vision for the community's energy future based on 4 pillars: economic, environment, resiliency, and innovation. UPAC considered public input received at UPAC meetings, the business users group, the Energy Vision town hall meetings, and through survey results. Assignment updates were provided to the Strategic Planning Committee at their February, March, April, and May meetings. UPAC presented a new Energy Vision recommendation to the Utilities Board for discussion at your May board meeting and is requesting approval today. And the Energy Vision statement is there on your screen. And if you have any questions, we are welcome to take those.
Nothing from Rex? Okay, then. Questions from the board?
No questions, make a motion to approve.
I would second it.
Is it really that simple? I love that.
That's simple.
Okay.
Well, now
Go
discussion.
ahead. Now discussion.
Now discussion.
Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this as it's written. And you've all heard this, my concerns on this before. But I'm very much concerned that, you know, the reduces our carbon footprint part is what I kind of have a problem with. I recognize that the state is in control here and the state is going to force this issue. But I don't believe we should be necessarily embracing it. And so that people and the people watching understand what that impact is going to be. That is going to reduce the carbon footprint across the state, and they're currently writing the regulations of what that's going to be. But that's going to essentially force the shutdown by 2030 of Drake and probably also Nixon. So by the time you shut down 40% of our generation, is going to have a significant impact on our customers, on the population. I don't agree with it. I think that this is a very misguided thing. The basis for it is a scientific fraud and a political scam, and I'm just not going to support it. And I think the impact is going to be significant on our customers. And just to put that in context of what has happened in other places that have gone down this path, however they happen to phrase it. California, their electric rates are 50% higher, and they've got rolling blackouts. In Australia, Southern Australia, in the summer just completed, they went down this path, and they were paying up to $1,000 per megawatt hour for power that they couldn't get, and they were having rolling blackouts, and that's kind of the impact. One of the examples that was brought to this board a few months ago was the town of Georgetown in Texas that went 100% renewable. And they were tremendously proud of the fact that they did that. It wasn't 2 days after that presentation that the real story kind of came out, that the cost to them was significant, and their individual customers, their residential customers, are paying $100 a month higher electric bills because of that conversion. It doesn't work. And going to renewable energy to fill that gap doesn't work. The engineering has kind of pretty much shown that you can't maintain the power unless that renewable energy is backed by carbon-based energy. And going down that path too fast, which is what the state is going to force us and what this statement is in support of, is going to hurt our customers. I recognize, again, that this is, in large measure, is what the state is forcing on us. We don't necessarily have a choice, but I will not support it.
I have other board members that want to speak. I just want to say something briefly after Andy here. I share some of his concerns, and I think he stated it, but I just want to make it really clear that the state is driving this. And whether or not we agree with it, I think it's really important for the utility to be strategic and to plan for this outcome instead of waiting to the last minute and then being caught off guard, potentially spending a lot more money. So I support the vision as something that we are mandated in some regard to move forward with. David?
And I'm extremely supportive of this, both the process that was gone through, and I want to commend the board for going through the process. The process has been elaborated upon. One of the things that, as a board, and Mr. Pico and I may disagree with this, is we're not scientists. We're not the ones that are going to, do the modeling. I am not a scientist. I do read, and the the consensus appears to be in the community that this is something that needs to be addressed. It will impact customers, whatever we do. We can impact customers right now and go 100%, coal and damn the environment full speed ahead, if you would. But that neglects the other component of this that I think is so present, so important. It's the last line. It is the recognition that we are not here just for the customers today. Colorado Springs Utilities has never been here just for the customers today. The reason that Colorado Springs Utilities is so profound and such an important part of Colorado Springs now is that years ago, people recognized that they were here for us. And our responsibility is to be here for the generations to come. And we've heard from the generations to come. I'm reminded of the Founding Fathers and the preamble to the Constitution. We don't make a more perfect union just for us, but it is for us and our posterity. This is a very profound governing principle that has been in the United States since its founding. I commend you for including it in this vision statement. And so that's why I'm fully in support of this vision statement.
Well said, David. Wayne?
You've heard my expression that I would like this simpler. I think it's a long vision statement. And I would note as part of it that I think there's some subsets in here that are listed in front of it. So I think there are some elements in the latter part of it that are somewhat redundant with other parts that are in it. Having said that, while I don't think it's ideal, it is something that I can support. I recognize what Mr. Pico said. I emphasize this says reduces. It didn't say how much it's reduced. And it's also got cost-effective and reliable and resilient in front of that in priority. And so that balance is something that allows me to say, I think this works. If, as we go forward with this vision, we are confronted with things that force us to balance these different things, I think this board in the past has said there's some limits as to how far we're willing to go to do things that have impacts on our customers in terms of the rates they pay. And so because it's got resilient, reliable, and cost-effective first in that balancing process here, I am willing to support this. I certainly recognize what folks have said, and as I've said, I would have preferred a different wording, but I don't view my role as a board member to say it must be what I say it is and nothing else, but instead to look at, is this something that has sufficient elements with it in it that I can support?
Thank you, Wayne. Tom?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman.
Jill?
Chairman.
Chairwoman Gabler, okay.
So hard.
Based on the comments that board member Pico brought up, and this is to you, Rex, as representing UPAC, how would you respond to the fact that a vision statement like this might end up in both Drake and Nixon being closed and not used by our utilities by 2030?
That's hard for me to answer. I don't have the economics and the background for the trade-offs, the balancing between cost and environmental performance to really make an educated statement about it.
Did UPAC discuss that at all
Sure.
as you were working on this vision statement?
Not specific. Well, in two ways.
Yeah.
And I almost said no, and the fact is yes, because Drake was raised many, many times by the public. If we had one comment that stood out above all others, it was close Drake tomorrow. Now, what we consistently said with regard to that subject was, and I like the term of art that staff has used with this, is to put that comment in the parking lot. It's not forgotten. We're not ignoring it. We did not ignore it, but it was not germane in specific to setting a vision or a new energy vision statement, because it's a tactic, it's a tool, a big one, but it's nonetheless an element of a plan, not the plan. So the answer is in part yes, but we didn't try and figure out, the pros and cons of closing Drake prior to 2035.
Okay, I
was
mean,
not our
people,
mission.
this is a televised board meeting, and
Right.
people, are going to be watching this and wondering, if in the next 10 to 11 years, both of our coal-burning plants would be closed down and their rates would go up by $100 a month. I worry about that kind of a thing too, and I'm
Absolutely.
curious if the staff has
Absolutely.
got some comment to make our customers and owners of the municipally owned utility more at ease, or should we be nervous about this?
No, I think you should. I would not be nervous about it. And so let me start that answer, and then if staff wants to add, absolutely. But the targeting and the tactics to get to results will be a huge part of the upcoming integrated resource planning process. So, in order to implement the goals and to set specific targets, that's a function of the IRPs.
And can you mention for everyone when that's going to begin?
In the
Next
next
item.
10 minutes, because that is why the reason why I'm up here is to
Okay.
seek the board's approval of our
Schedule.
IRP schedule. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I guess as a ratepayer, as somebody who's been here now I started my job 40 years ago on the 14th of June, which I'm retired from, thankfully. But that was
Well,
my start point in
congratulations.
time. So, I'm concerned about rates. You have half the population that's concerned about rate impacts, half that's, biased towards the environmental side. So
Right.
people are concerned. They should be with regard to having an excessive rate impact for issues, but that's the IRP process.
Okay.
And by the way, and I'll steal my own thunder for a second, but all of those steps, all of those things, and those decision points will be brought to you.
Right.
Will be brought to the board. That's going to be UPAC's job, is to help articulate the various milestones and things along the way back to you all. So it'll be thrust back on you.
Okay.
And Mr. Tharp, would you comment on what Mr. Pico brought up in terms of as our energy czar?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I would say in defense of UPAC, really, they finished their work before this bill was signed. So they weren't really focused on what the legislature might end up with. Now, we have the benefit of that knowledge today, but UPAC didn't in all of their deliberations, I don't believe. And our modeling shows that clearly it will take the closure of Drake to get us close to the goal for 2030. It will require changes in the way we operate, probably both at Nixon and at Front Range, but we have more modeling to do. And I know that all rate increases will come before this board, and you'll have a chance to weigh in on what we're doing. And so I would not be afraid of what's coming in 2030, because I think we have plenty of time to do the right thing for our customers, and we can maintain this change at a relatively low cost.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Andy?
Well, I'd just like to respond to a couple of things that Mr. Geisinger said. The scientists are in fact split on this issue of modeling what the climate is going to do, and that is the basis for an awful lot of what this is. I'm not a scientist per se, but I've been studying the issue, and I've been writing articles which have been published worldwide on this issue. I've been doing this for 15 years and given the talks and so forth. I've gone to the other side's presentations. I can probably articulate their side as well as they could. I haven't yet to met a single one on the other side who can articulate what the skeptics say. And in 15 years, I've had an open invitation to come talk to any group, and not once has anyone ever expressed that desire. I think it's an issue of integrity that if you really want to know what it is, if you're going to make a decision based on that, you really ought to know what the full story is, because the scientists are in fact split. 100% of their predictions based on their modeling have been wrong, have not panned out. And I think it's not a good basis to make policy decisions that will impact the population and out of their pocketbook. And I want to assure you that I am very much concerned about the generations to come.
Okay. Bill?
Well, we have to always remember back to what we're doing here. This is a vision statement, and this is a direction. This is not the direction, correction, this is destination. How we get there, multiple ways to do this. But what's important in reading this whole thing is that it's phrased, it's phased, and it's caveated to protect the customers, the ratepayers, which might be different, and of course CSU as a corporate entity which serves all these particular functions. That's why in the end state, if I made it any simpler, I'd miss where I really want it to go, and I wish all of us would vote for it.
Richard?
Well, you're going to hear my same speech again, but and so I'm going to keep it short. But
Good.
we were just talking about the water planning today and how temperatures are going to get warmer. We were trying to plan for our water consumption in the future for all the citizens of Colorado Springs because the climate is getting warmer. And whether we want to admit that the science is bad or whether we can predict this or that, the consequences are so huge. You gotta hedge your bets on this. You can't, if 80% of the scientists say it's going to happen, and the consequences of what they're describing are really going to happen, we have a huge responsibility to do everything we can to not contribute to the problem. And let's face it, I know there's lots of other contributors and cars, and you can look at how people use electricity, and we're all culprits. But there's two stationary sources that are big ones. And we have one that we may be able to retire sooner rather than later and not raise rates very much. And we may be able to build a infrastructure that will protect us in the future, and not just protect us from the regulatory environment, and that's an issue. But what we're protecting ourselves from is the ability to turn to our citizens and say that we tried everything we could to help with a situation that they may be dealing with, the next generations. And maybe we're wrong, but what if they're right? And what if the predictions are right? We at least can say with open eyes and an open heart that we tried our best, and balanced it, and that's what I think this really does well. Reduces, it doesn't say eliminate, cost-effective, resilient, reliable, environmentally sustainable. A great statement. Your words are well chosen. We'll have the flexibility to do the best we can, but we need to go into this with our eyes open. We're not in a tunnel here in Colorado Springs, and all these other places around the country and around the world are wrong and we're right. There's not many people that agree with you, Andy. Not many. And you can sit up here and talk about how it's wrong time and time again, and point to your evidence, and say that we people that are on our side don't care to look at the facts. But I know that every client, every study that I read has a lot of basis backing it up. They're not fishing for it out of the thin air. Let's hedge our bets and let's do our best for our citizens.
Okay, I know we have people who want to respond, but let's just remember we've all spoken. Everybody knows everybody's position. So let's keep it very short, please, Andy. And then Wayne. And then please let's vote.
Well, I'll just keep it real short. I'll challenge you to come talk to me.
Okay,
And go through that.
Let's do it.
And let's
Yeah.
go through what that science said, because you're saying that not many, I would argue that there are thousands upon thousands of scientists who do that.
And
Tens
I'd
of
like to
thousands
I'd like to
of
bring
published materials.
I'd like
that
to
are
bring
out there.
I'd like to bring somebody with me that knows more about all this than I do.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's fine. We can set that up sometime. But I'll give you a number. And that average temperature hasn't changed in 20 years. And I can show that off the actual data that comes up. So if you want to argue this further, let's take it offline.
Let's take it
Okay,
offline.
we'll take it offline.
Okay.
Sorry, I got
It's okay. Everybody's passionate about this issue. Wayne, want to have the last word?
Sure. I'll just say that from my perspective, based on the information I've been given by our staff and and UPAC, this does not contemplate, in my view, closing Nixon before 2030. It does involve looking at working towards closing Drake, which is something this board has previously set as a goal, and which the people said in their votes is something we should look at, but not to do immediately. Thanks.
I think those are good words. Can we vote now? Or has everybody had their say?
Call the roll. Anybody else?
I'm going to work, yeah. Yeah, is there anybody from the audience who'd like to speak on this topic? Okay, then, Tony, can you please call roll?
I can. So this is on approval of the UPAC recommended energy vision statement. Board Member Knight is excused. Board Member Geislinger?
Yes.
Board Member Strand?
Yes.
Board Member Pico?
No.
Chair Gabler?
Yes.
Vice Chair Williams?
Yes.
Board Member Murray?
Yes.
Board Member Scorman?
Yes.
And Board Member Avila is excused. I believe that motion passes.
6-1.
Thank you, Tony.